Guys, one thing that I was kind of curious about when I saw the official teaser trailer for Black Ops 7, and I think we might get more information on this, maybe June 20th and beyond, as there is a rumor that the trailer or the deep dive about Black Ops 7 and its story and gameplay and stuff might be revealed around June 20th or so. So we might get more info there. Now, what I am curious about is what type of role does Call of Duty Black Ops 6 campaign play in Black Ops 7? Now, the story takes place, I think it was like 50 years later. So a lot of the players that we know, like, Woods, Adler, Sevati Dumas even, they might not be around potentially by the time that Black Ops 7 comes out. It takes place in 2035. Now, Adler and Woods should definitely be dead. Or like, I want to say, maybe if they're not definitely dead, they're like, they really shouldn't be able to do much of anything. They would be really, really old. And because of that, maybe we don't expect to see them there. But I think that what Call of Duty has lacked over the last few years in terms of campaign, and this pertains specifically to Black Ops and Modern Warfare, is the consistency. There hasn't been much consistency when it comes to the stories of the games. If we look at Black Ops and its return, we are talking about Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, and then Call of Duty Black Ops 7. I feel sometimes like the story begins in the campaign for Black Ops, and then it kind of ends, but not really by the end of it, because we have to go into Warzone and we have to follow Warzone and get information and maybe have the campaign resolved there. And then the next game comes out and it doesn't really touch upon anything that happened in Warzone or much of what happened in the previous campaign. So my point is, what's going to happen to Black Ops 7 in terms of Black Ops 6? Are we gonna get any information on Case? Would a Case even be relevant to the story of Black Ops 7 in any type of way? Would Adler being mentioned or coming back, or doing some past flashback missions with maybe Russell Adler meeting David Mason and things like that, would that kind of happen? Would Adler meet Mike Harper? Would there be any interaction between those two characters, maybe in a flashback mission that takes place in the early 2000s or something like that, with Adler maybe a little bit older and maybe semi-retired? Like, do we see that type of stuff? Do we see any mention of Jane Harrow whatsoever? Do we see any mention of Pantheon? Do we see what happened to Pantheon as the years went on? Or is all that just going to get resolved in Warzone in this final season, and then we'll just kind of never talk about it again? And one of the examples that we can use is, we talked a lot about Perseus. Call of Duty Cold War made a point to make Perseus this big bad character, this big bad organization that kind of wanted maybe world domination or something like that. The story ends with Perseus escaping. Then we move into Warzone, and in Warzone we end up chasing this new guy who must know where Perseus is. He's one of Perseus' right-hand man, and they're still, trying to take over the world and everything. And then when we finally get our hands on Stitch, he tells us that Perseus died. He tells us that the original Perseus died. He tells us that the original Perseus died, and now that he's Perseus. And that for years and years, there's been so many different Perseus, and whatever he did is gonna last, a long time. There will be future Perseus, and things are gonna keep on going. Like, this shadow organization has always been there, and it always will be there. That's basically what I got. And then we went to Black Ops 6, and there was no mention of Perseus. Now we have a new organization, a new shadow organization that wants something else, and their name are Pantheon, and they've been infiltrating the CIA for decades, and they're gonna continue to do so, and they're like this big bad organization now. And then what ends up happening at the end of the game, we find out that, well, we didn't really get Pantheon yet. They're still out on the loose, and we gotta hunt them down in Warzone. Okay, we're hunting them down in Warzone in a very lackluster story campaign for Warzone, because the story in Warzone has been pretty ass, but we're hunting them down. We're getting our hands on them. And what's gonna happen at the end of this season? Are we gonna eradicate Pantheon completely from the CIA, and it's gonna be told to us in Warzone through a cinematic, and then we move into Black Ops 7, and now the Guild are the big bad shadowy organization? It's like, I don't know, maybe if Cold War would have started something with Perseus, and then Perseus could have evolved into Pantheon, but it kind of would have been the same players, and then we moved to Black Ops 7 and Pantheon evolved again to something else. If that was the story, then okay, we have a connection to everything, we have an understanding. This happened here, it started in Cold War, War, and then this in Black Ops 6, and now in Black Ops 7, and it all kind of comes full circle. But in each one of those games, we have a new big bad, and they're a big shadow organization, and we don't get them by the end of the game. So it's always something new. So there's no real consistency to it. You know what I'm saying? And that was one of the things that I was wondering. I wonder if that consistency is going to be present in Black Ops 7. Are we going to get any answers to any questions that we had from Black Ops 6? Or are we going to get more questions answered that we had from Black Ops 2? Like, where does it fall in line, right? What is this a direct sequel to? Now, the marketing, from what I have gathered, states that Black Ops 7 is a direct sequel to Black Ops 6. Now, obviously, common sense would suggest that is the case because Black Ops 6 and Black Ops 7, but also Black Ops 7 could be a direct sequel to Black Ops 2 and the events that occurred in 2025 because it follows David Mason, it follows Mike Harper, because we have something new going on that causes David Mason to come out of retirement. So I just want to know what the connection will be and where do we go afterwards, right? That's I guess that's a topic for another day, but really that was one of the curious things about this game. Black Ops 7's campaign, I just hope it doesn't go all over the place. I hope that it can kind of tie into Black Ops 6 and potentially Black Ops 2, and we get more answers rather than questions, because personally I feel that Black Ops 6 left us with more questions. It posed more questions than we had before, and it didn't really give us that many answers. It gave us some answers to maybe what Adler was doing and maybe trying to confirm the death of Alex Mason and things like that, but all in all we ended up being left more confused potentially, and I feel that if that is the case again in Black Ops 7, it'll be a little bit disappointing. Personally, I'm always very excited for new campaigns for Call of Duty because for me it's just a brand new story, something different, something more to cover. I love Call of Duty campaigns, and I really hope that Black Ops 7 can deliver a good one. I also hope that it can connect in some way to Cold War, to Black Ops 6, and maybe even to Black Ops 2. I want more of a continuation of the stories. I want them to feel more connected rather than feeling like their own little stories in the same world potentially.